Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting and final budget hearing of the Charlotte County Airport Authority. Ask everyone to silence your cell phones. Mr. Hurston is in the bathroom, I guess. Well, we can go ahead and we'll skip the invocation for today and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you all stand? Kathleen, would you lead us, please?
Join me, please, in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay. We moved on without you. So, roll call, please.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Anders?
Here.
Mrs. Oliver?
Here.
Mr. Carr?
Present.
Mr. Hansick?
Here.
Mr. Parrish?
Here.
Mr. Hurston?
Present.
Mrs. Coppola?
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have a quorum. Also like to recognize Mark Kuhowski from the City Council, the City of Punta Gorda is in the audience. Okay, anyone in the audience wish to speak to an agenda item? Seeing no one that wishes to address an agenda item, we'll move on to any additions or corrections to the agenda.
I would like to move items 15 and 16 to next after additions and deletions. Commissioner Oliver needs to get to Tampa for a flight, I believe. So.
Yeah.
Okay, 15 and 16.
Yes. So old business and new business.
Okay.
You're moving it to where?
To right now.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and take up item number 15, which is the selection of a state lobbyist. We went out for RFPs, request for proposals for professional services, and we received 6 firms that were interested in doing that. We all had an opportunity to score, and you see on the screens and on your agenda how the scoring took place. The high score was Ronald L. Book Law Offices with a score of 70.
Mr. Chair, I move that this board select Ronald L. Book Law Offices, which was the highest scoring group, as our state lobbyist.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and seconded to engage the services of Ronald L. Book Law Offices as our lobbyist for the ensuing year. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Same side. Motion carried unanimously. Item 16 is a proposed.
Yeah, item 16 is our proposed meeting schedule for next year, which we always approve. I would only note that there's a meeting in December that is right before Christmas. Like to just not have that meeting unless we see it's necessary, and if we do, we can add it in November.
Leave that as an option.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the proposed 2023 meeting schedule.
Mr. Chair, I second.
We have a motion and second to approve our calendar year 2023 Charlotte County Airport Authority meeting schedule. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Same sign. Okay. Those 2 items are completed. Back to the regular scheduled agenda. I guess we're going to go on to item number 7, which is the employee recognition. Raymond?
Right.
Commissioners, Mr. Parrish, today we are continuing what we started last month, which is recognizing employees for professional development accomplishments. One of these people today you'll recognize from last month, and we have another one, Josh Diarman and Vanessa Alicia. They can come up and be recognized. So again, Josh, you might recognize from last month, who achieved his non-federal weather observer certification last month. This month, he accomplished his AAAE certified member exam pass. He passed his exam. He did that through the self-study, which is extremely difficult to accomplish, and did that while he was studying for his weather observer, making it even more difficult. So I'd like to recognize Josh for that. And Vanessa Alicia passed her non-federal weather observer just last week. Everybody in Airside right now is going through that process, and we hope to have everybody certified by the end of this month. So I'd like to recognize Vanessa for her accomplishment.
If I could say something about the Weather Observer Program, we are one of the few airports in the nation that have non-federal weather observers. But what it does is when our weather observation system goes down, which is federally maintained, flights can't land if the tower's closed. They are not allowed to land unless the weather is updated. So our ability to go up in the tower and manually update the weather means that we can continue operations after tower hours, which has saved us multiple diversions, and we get diversions in when Sarasota's goes down or St. Pete's goes down. And right now, these weather observation systems that we have at the airports are getting very old, and they're having problems, and there's no money to update them. And so it's something that we put in place. As most of you probably don't remember, Direct Air went 7 days without being able to fly here because our system was down.
And if I could add to that, Ben Duke, the manager for Airside, has been the one that's been administering this program and trying to get everybody certified in the department. So I'd like to recognize him for that as well, his accomplishments in getting everybody certified.
For the next presentation, I'm going to move down front because I've been told we need a picture.
Yes.
I'm going to first provide some comments. On June the 29th, the Federal Aviation Administration's Southern Region, which is governing airports over 8 states and 2 territories, presented to Mr. Parrish the 2021 Air Carrier Airport Manager of the Year. This award is given to an airport professional who exemplifies excellence in airport management, demonstrates exceptional leadership, tirelessly works to promote the aviation industry, and has achieved efficiencies and improved productivity in their organization. I'd like to have James come down. They didn't have the actual award at the time of the announcement. The award has been sent to us, and on behalf of the FAA, I'd like to officially present it to Mr. Parrish. It's a great achievement when you think about how many airports are in 10 different entities in the southern region.
Good job, James.
Okay, moving on with the agenda. We move on to the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented and seconded. Any further discussion? Well, we don't have a discussion on the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously. Next item, adopt our budget resolution. I just want to give everybody a little history on our budget. Our proposed budget was advertised on July 28, 2022. The budget was available on our website on that same date. The Airport Authority held a proposed budget presentation by Mr. Parrish on August the 4th. An overview of the proposed budget was the subject of an August 18th Sun newspaper article. There were no public comments from the workshop on August 4th. A public hearing for the budget was also held on August the 18th with a change to the capital projects expenditures, but no public comments were received. So this morning I need to entertain and adopt an FY 2022-23 budget resolution totaling $77,388,726. That's both an operating and capital expenditure budget. Anyone have any comments? And we can solicit from the public also, because it is the final public hearing on it. Seeing none from the public. Any board members? Any comments? The chair will accept a resolution to, a motion to accept the budget resolution.
Mr. Chair, I move that this board adopt Budget Resolution 2022-08.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of Budget Resolution 2022-08? All in favor?
Aye.
Same sign, motion carried unanimously. Did I miss anything?
Yes, sir.
I got to check over here. Okay.
Yeah, so item 10, we just have to adopt the budget.
Okay, we got the resolution, so now we need to adopt our fiscal year final budget for 2022-2023.
Mr. Chair, I move that this board adopt fiscal year 2022-2023 final budget as presented.
Oh, second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously. Secretary Treasurer's report.
Good morning, everybody. The accounts receivable, income statement, balance sheet, and I will ask Mr. Parrish to comment. Have a good trip.
Sure.
Okay.
We are continuing with the financial review, just a little overview of how things are going for the month and for the year to date. For July, the year, or month ending 31st of July, we had a positive variance in our budget of about $200,000, a little over $200,000. We continue exceeding our revenue a little over our expenses, as we try to do every month. That's about a 1.7 million variance for the year, with about a total of 6.5 million in revenue. July is our last good month. August, September, October or August and September seem to be a little down, just because of traffic in Florida. School's back in session, so traveling slows down. Go on to the next slide. Oh, that's the only slide. We don't show the other one. So the accounts receivables, we're working with everybody on here. They're not big if you look past 0 to 30. We're working with Allegiant. They're still not completely back in the office, and some of these invoices are slipping through the cracks. But they have promised us they will be paid in full next period. But right now they paid $13,000 of the money that they owe us. And then Faber and Gulf Machine Works, we continue to work with. Faber is $180. We got to figure out, oh, that's paid in full, so we're good there. The income statement, we basically went over with the overview. We continue to exceed our revenues, and we're slightly over in expenses. A lot of that has to do with fuel sale or fuel costs, which are predetermined in our budget as an imaginary number that I wish wasn't in there. But that is not for me. And our balance sheet continues to move up, currently about $155 million, a little over $155 million. Keep in mind, that was about $50 million 7 years ago. So if we continue to add assets to the balance sheet, we continue to update runways, taxiways, and that's a lot of this is the value of those as we move forward. Overall, the budget looks good. We continue to collect PFCs. We're working on our new PFC application with the FAA. Should have that in shortly. Over the last week, while the airport was slow, we were able to do a lot of work inside the terminal. If you have time, go in there, look at the floors. I know Beth's not here, but they're not shiny, but they have a sheen. And we're working on getting those shined up a little bit more, but everything's clean, painted, carpets were deep cleaned. We're looking at new chairs coming in later this year. I have to do that swap over at night. But I want to thank staff for everything they did over the shutdown. It was a lot of work, and we got all the projects that we had on the books done.
Wow, that's terrific.
Any questions?
Jim, I have just one question, probably for Sandy. I noticed you attached the PFC and then check register as kind of right behind the financial information. Sandy, is the 3374 and the 5512 account we're knocking down the SunTrust?
The SunTrust account was the one that we found the fraud on, so we're moving everything to our Centennial account, which was our
Very good.
Our savings account anyway. Our operational account was still with SunTrust just
Sure.
because it's a pain to move it.
Sure. Thank you, Sandy. No further questions.
You done? Okay, moving on to liaison reports. I'll start off. I reviewed the city of Punta Gorda's agenda. Didn't see anything in there that had any immediate effect on the airport. So I mentioned Mark is here, and I haven't had a chance to talk to him here lately since they came back from their vacation. But I don't really have any report on activities with the Punta Gorda City Council. County Commissioners.
I'd like to invite Commissioner Deutsch, our airport liaison, to give an update.
This is his time. On my time, Mr. Parrish, congratulations. It's good for you in the airport. Mr. Hansick, to you as well. That tie must have been an election day gift. We're trying to figure out what it was from the back.
Do you want me to start the clock?
You can start it now.
Just gavelled and closed.
The commission didn't officially meet during the month of August, but a lot was going on. Obviously, we're in the midst of the budget crisis process. The county's solid. We're fiscally sound, thanks in part to the fact of all the money the feds have been giving away that they still haven't figured out how we'll ever pay for it. But the county is sound. We're actually holding the millage rate. There have been some discussions, and there will be, because we're looking some ways to see if indeed we could have a possible cut in the millage rate. The problem is when you break it down and divide it up for everybody to get $3 or $4, is it worth to go through the process as compared to getting our reserves up to where they should be? And the point I made at the meeting, and there was some response, you know, we're going to have an emergency. And whether it's going to be a sinkhole in the middle of 41 or a plane bumping into the bridge or a hurricane, something's going to happen, and we should, you know, we're concerned about the reserves. So we'll be doing that at the final budget hearing. We also got into a rather lengthy discussion on Mosaic, which we've consistently, it's brought to our attention by people in the community, and we deal with it. But we do realize and accept that, you know, water quality is one of the foremost things that the commission is concerned about, and the Peace River is, probably our most valuable natural asset. And the feeling on the commission is that we're very supportive of DeSoto's efforts at this point to hold off on doing anything with Mosaic, realizing that water comes downhill, it's going to go into the Peace River, it's going to go into the Gulf, and et cetera. And last but not least, we spent some time talking about, we're concerned about highway safety, particularly out as we get on Vermont Road at 31 and out in that area. There's single lanes, there's no place to go off the road, and if there is, they're wet, and there's a lot of accidents out there. That's just one of the places that we're talking about. As Jim knows, we've been dealing with this through the MPO, but we're up and running, and we're facing the same staffing challenges throughout the county, that everyone else is, whether you're going to go to the neighborhood fast food restaurant or the sheriff's office, the fire department, across the board. We have concerns, but we're dealing with it. Unless there's questions, that's a quickie update.
Thank you, Commissioner Deutsch.
You guys have a good day. Congratulations again, Mr. Chairman. You too, Jim.
Okay, Mr. Hurston.
Mr. Chair.
MPO.
Yes, sir, MPO. I reported last month on our meeting of July 18th that was held in Murdoch on the MPO. My next meeting is going to be October 17th. I'll report on that later. MPOAC, I reported last month. We had our meeting on July 28th, and the next meeting, I believe, is October 20th. And I'd like to mention that I've also been added to the Rail and Freight Committee as part of the MPOAC. As far as economic development goes, I am now working probably in about 4 or 5 different counties, and it is just blistering, I think, is the description I would give the economic activity. I've got 2 projects just north of the airport, plus a 3rd one to the east of the airport, and it seems to be quite our airport properties seem to be the buzz with the developers. But other than that, that's it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, James, the MPO is meeting on the 17th of October? The MPO?
Yes, the MPO.
And they meet at
Murdoch.
Murdoch?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Okay, community report, Mrs. Coppola.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. As you know, I belong to the Women's Club of Port Charlotte, and I want you to know they do a lot of terrific things throughout the community with very little recognition. They give 2 scholarships a year away, one to a high school female and one to a male every year. They wrap Christmas presents in the mall outside Victoria's Secret for any of you gentlemen that would like to get your presents wrapped for a small donation or a large donation. They rent their building also for weddings or engagement parties or meetings or whatever. And they really do terrific work in the community with very little recognition. But they're a nice group of women, and I enjoy being with them and talking with them. Let's see what else I've got here. We also visit the Veterans Home a couple times a year. We bring them shaving cream and books and whatever they need, candy if they're allowed to have it, or cookies or whatever. And they just welcome us with open arms. And they fly flags. If you have a flag for a deceased member of your family and you would like to fly it in remembrance, they fly that during the month of November. They charge a small fee for it. It's not very much, but to see, they have, I think, about 45 of them now up when they put them up in November. So if you're interested, I have some forms, or I can get you some forms for that also. Let's see what else they do. They do a lot of stuff. We're going to the chamber dinner, several of us this month. That should be interesting. We're going to go to chamber dinner. And let's see, what else have I got here? I guess that's about it that I've been doing. Been busy.
Okay, thank you, Mrs.
And also, they know about our airport, because They know, I get asked a lot of questions, too. I wish I had some handouts but I give them the telephone number for flight information. So if they need flight information or anything like that, I do give them the phone number out. So that's what I've been doing. The Backpack Kids, did I mention them? They're really a great group, too. They feed 24 schools. They feed lunches, and they take the lunches, all volunteer work, women in the kitchen, guys in the trucks, and they go to 24 schools every single day. They pack the food and they bring it to the kids that need it, or the hungry ones in the schools, and they're another terrific group of people, Backpack Kids. So I'll keep them in mind, too, if you want to make a donation to them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I might mention that Mrs. Coppola was elected in the August primary for another 4-year term. She was
Yeah.
unopposed. State legislation, Mrs. Oliver has left, so we won't have a
I think
report unless
she's here on Teams, but
she's on what?
Mr. Chair, I don't have anything to report other than to welcome Ron Book as our new lobbyist. I think he's going to do great things for us. And we'll have our state legislative delegation meeting in November, and I'm sure that we'll be working closely with him up until that point. And then through session.
Okay, thank you. Item 13, Attorney's report.
Thank you, sir. A couple of things. Obviously, we're always busy here. It's just amazing to me the scope of work that we engage for all of the departments here, but what is even more amazing is how good everybody is here in what they do. If you ever want to be really pressed, just have one of them send you a project and not respond. They'll be right on you. Ms. Miller, I have to compliment her, is like the best of the best. That coming up, Ms. Miller took point relative to the Rosati license that we entered into. That has now been fully signed. We're going to make a slight modification to adjust for some build out of some adjacent property. We've been working on that, and Ms. Miller has been pressing that very diligently. We have row hanger 2. We continue to consolidate information associated with that buyout. A couple of things that have come up on that. I've spoken to the appraiser that we had as to methodologies. We've also gotten the information from what I call the our airport specialist attorneys. They gave us a long memorandum, which I've studied. I have a meeting post this one with administration to go over how we want to proceed. Any number of issues relative to the rental car RPO that was out, and we're responding to those on a almost weekly basis. However, the big gorilla that still remains in front of us is the golf contours matter, which is just all-consuming of my time and many others' time associated with this matter. I've sent you lengthy emails associated with this, but just to summarize, you're aware that his lease terminated last year on August 31st. Based upon his personal representation and a letter and a plea before this board agreed to abate his removal for a period of 1 year through August 31st, 2022. Recalling there's a distinction between we didn't give him a new lease, that lease is terminated, we just agreed to abate, meaning not to proceed forward with the removal action for that 1 year based upon his personal guarantee to leave the building by the end of that term. Of course, we're sitting here now in September. As of August 31st, 2022, there has been no efforts to leave that building. We've had any number of discussions associated with this matter, special meetings, et cetera. Since the last board meeting, I sent you an update providing you accurate information relative to the presentation that he had. I've gotten no response from anybody, so I assume that that information fulfilled whatever responses that you needed. Then, earlier this week, I received a demand letter from an attorney hired by Mr. Goen, a gentleman named Mr. DaCosta. He's an attorney, I think, out of Sanibel, making a number of, I'd say, unique presentations associated with it. Frankly, I told him that I thought his letter was, quote, theatric posturing predicated upon erroneous and unsupported facts. I've solicited additional information from him, which I have not received associated with the facts, and also given him information that he didn't have, specifically that there was a written abatement agreement, not a verbal abatement agreement. I would also note, and I provided you that letter where there is a, well, I guess a demand associated with what he says is slander committed by this board for $100,000. And then he responds, then he says he'd like to continue to enter in a dialogue. I've sent you a lengthy email associated with that dialogue. One of the things that was necessary is any proposal that they may have. I asked if he wanted to issue a formal LOI, letter of intent, relative to the spec building, they should do that. And over the period of this week, I've told him repeatedly that we would require to have the financial information to demonstrate that Mr. Goen would have the ability to support any type of new building. Yesterday, I received an LOI that had three failures. One, no financial information. Two, did not agree to the amount that we had indicated was going to be necessary associated with a new building. And three, an indication that they were not going to pay the cost of the build-out of that new building. Mr. Goen has continued to indicate that the new building would be something purpose-built. Nobody on this board or anywhere else has ever agreed to build an build-for-suit structure for Mr. Goen and his operations. At this point, where we're at is we have a terminated abatement agreement by its time. He is now 1 year post-termination of his prior lease, 5 years since we went into this process. At this point, I need direction from this board as to how it wants to proceed relative to golf contours in that property. Obviously, your options are to continue this discussion with Mr. Goen, or we should simply proceed. And I'd like to have a specific direction as to how you would like to proceed relative to this building. Remember, this building is necessary for the purposes of the fuel farm. That fuel farm has been under construction literally around him for the last 3 years and continues to proceed unabated. And we note also that there's been a fire in that building right next to our fuel farm. So I'd like direction associated with how this board would like to proceed. I would also note, just as a matter of course, that I do consider all these leases to be administrative matters as opposed to policy matters by this board. Unfortunately, this matter becomes a public spectacle every time Mr. Goen's lease comes up or terminates. I believe this is something that should be handled by administration and then direction to legal counsel. But because this has become a repeated public spectacle at Mr. Goen's insistence, I would suggest that this board may give us accurate directions on how it wants to proceed.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a
Mr.
motion.
Andrews?
The abatement period is concluded, therefore I move that CCAA administration and legal counsel undertake all reasonable and necessary actions, including litigation, to remove golf contours from the property.
Mr. Chair, I would second that motion as indicated by Mr. Andrews.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, providing direction to our staff and legal counsel regarding the termination, the complete termination of golf contours, as stated by by Commissioner Andrews. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Carr,
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I suggest that because it wasn't on the agenda, that this board should not proceed with a vote pursuant to our bylaws. Any matters that are voted upon should have been included as a separate agenda item. So I think the next matter needs to still our next board meeting or a emergency board meeting. I don't think that it's proper to take a vote at this time.
It was hard for me to
Well,
hear.
Yeah, that was hard to hear.
At this point, we have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. So I
Mr.
believe
Chair.
we need to take a vote.
Can I just ask a question?
Go ahead. Chair recognizes Mrs. Coppola.
When that fire occurred in his building, that was, what, 7 years ago or more? It was quite a long time ago.
Approximately 18 months ago.
It was 18 months ago. Now, whose responsibility was that to
It's
Fix.
Mr. Goins, Gulf Contours under the lease, and if you recall that when we entered into the abatement agreement, he agreed that within 60 days that would be put
Yeah.
back exactly like it would have been.
Yeah, I
That
remember
abatement
that.
agreement was entered, I believe, actually signed in September. I repeatedly asked him to cure that. As of the last board meeting when we were here, we had photographs that indicated it had not been completed. For whatever reason, he continues to argue with us that he won't put it back the way it was. I have no idea why.
To me, that's a dangerous situation to work in with those people there. What else was I going to ask? And he's given you no financial information, and has he paid on time everything he's owed since we went into the special agreement with him?
The rent has been paid. There have been some issues associated with the rent. For example, checks were delivered that were unsigned. However, I believe within the scope of the payment period, those have been made. The primary financial default is the failure to pay the taxes. Recall last time he was before this board a month ago, he indicated that he had entered into an agreement. I knew that was false at the time because I just spoken to the tax collector's office the day before that and confirmed in writing he has not. I received, I think, earlier this week and provided to you that he has now entered into an agreement to pay that over the next, I think it's 8 months. Unfortunately, that is a delinquent amount that is due. The new amount will also come due in that period of time. So you're looking at another $9,000 or $10,000 that would become due in,
November 1st.
I think, September 1st, delinquent in April.
That's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Hurston?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Mr. Carr, thanks so much for the, you mentioned emails, 23 emails that I thoroughly enjoyed reading.
Thank you.
But you did mention that it's taken a lot of your time, and that there were,
Yes,
I
good
counted
job.
them up and dated them, 23 of them. Thank you.
Yes, and remember, for each of these emails I sent out, I have 5 commissioners and administration that I have to respond to because each person will have a question, and they ask me those questions, and I respond to those questions. These lengthy emails are intended to fully document this process as we proceed forward. Then I have to write to his now his attorney or Mr. Goen for further information. So, and because of what I'd say the public nature of this, I have to stay on this every day.
And we've given him every opportunity. That's to, get up to speed with fixing the fire damage and his rent that he's due. We've given him every opportunity.
Yes, and Commissioner
And he's
Capola,
not done
one
it.
should also remember for the record that 5 years ago when we negotiated this lease, his lease had terminated at that point, and he
Right.
required another lease for just 2 years
Right.
so he could sell his business.
Right.
We gave him that lease, and it had no options to extend except one at the discretion of the board. He came to the board and pleaded for another extension
And
of
we
2
gave it to
years,
him.
which we gave him because he was still going to sell the building. He failed to sell the business. He failed to do that and waited until there were a crisis mode, again, creating all of these public presentations, calling in the media, getting the televisions out here, et cetera. And then, when we still were going to proceed, he sent that personal letter saying, I personally guarantee that I will remove myself from this building, but if you will just give me 1 year. This board, being altruistic again,
Trying
said
to
we
help.
will give you that period of time to leave the building. He has been put on repeated notice, and I provided to you my email thread, that time was of the essence to proceed.
Yeah.
I told him 4 times before March. In March 23rd, I started telling him again, in writing, in bold, highlighted information, it is time to proceed. Time is of the essence. You need to proceed. I've written him 4 times since then, the exact same language, copied and duplicated, each time in bolded, underlined, italicized. You need to proceed.
Yeah, so enough is enough. Thank you.
Okay, with the prerogative of the chair, I'm going to stand by my previous statement. We have a motion, a second, and we've had discussion on continuing the,
Mr. Chair, again, I don't know if you were able to hear me previously, so please stop me if you were and you addressed this, but I don't think that it is proper for the board to take a vote on this matter because it was not noticed as a separate agenda item in our board packet. So the public had no indication that we would be discussing and taking a vote on this matter today. Just putting it under the attorney's report does not indicate and give the proper indication to the public for transparency purposes that this would be discussed and voted upon today.
Just in response to that, you recall that I report on this
Every month.
particular item every month. At the report last month, I stated specifically to this board that this would be back to you because, again, the abatement agreement had not ended at that time. I didn't want to presumptive that Mr. Goen may do something before the end of August. I specifically stated at the last board meeting that I would be back before this board at this meeting for direction associated with how to proceed.
I understand that, Attorney Carr. The problem is that it was not noted as a separate agenda item. So while we might know as commissioners because we attended the board meeting, the public does not know that this was going to be voted upon at this meeting because it was not noted as a separate agenda item. And because our bylaws require that, I do not think that it's proper for us to vote upon it at this time, unless you suggest that we should be violating our bylaws.
Do you know what particular paragraph of the bylaws you're referring to?
It is in section 5. I believe it is paragraph D or F.
I may have a copy of the bylaws here. What did she quote? What's the quote?
Section 5, D, E, or F. We're looking at a copy of the bylaws at this point. I'm still of the opinion that that we have a motion, we have a second. If we are in error, we can correct at the next board meeting.
Commissioner Oliver, I'm looking at B. It deals with notice associated with how they're going to have a commission meeting, how you give notice to the commissioners. E deals with no approval of the annual budget shall be given at an emergency meeting. And F deals with any commissioner is unable to attend, how that commissioner can attend the meeting and what they should do. Again, I see nothing in this that says an item has to be specified on the agenda for the purposes of having a motion associated with it. If there's another provision you'd like me to look at.
Was that heard as an F that you read? Is there a G?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Yeah, that is like, because again, because I don't have it in front of me at the moment, but it is section 5 in the way that our board meetings are to be conducted and voting.
I'm looking at 5, procedure for authority meetings.
Yes, sir. It's towards the end. There's, I don't remember how many separate subsections there are under section 5.
It goes through J, 2 pages.
Okay.
Do we need a recess?
Yeah, right. Mr. Chair, I move that the chair call the question.
I'm looking at subparagraph G. Perhaps this is what you're referring to, Commissioner Oliver. It says, when the authority meeting is held, the authority may only take action upon any matter, proposal, or item of business which is listed on the official agenda.
That is correct, sir.
I believe my report is on the agenda.
I understand, sir. However, health conflict is separately listed under old business, and we are being requested to take action on this matter. I'm not allowed to call questions during my legislative reporting. A report is a report, it's not a vote.
Okay, I'm going back to my original statement. We have a motion. We have it second. We've had a discussion on the issue. All those in favor of the motion presented by Commissioner Andrews, please
Aye.
signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. 4 ayes. We have 4 ayes. Any opposed?
Yay.
1 opposed. Okay, moving on. I assume your report is concluded?
This is my report, thank you.
Okay.
Can I, what happens now?
I prepared and sent to you a draft of the litigation that I was anticipating would be necessary for the
Eviction.
purposes of removing him. I intend to file that and serve it upon him.
Thank you.
Basically the eviction. Okay, moving on to the CEO's report. We'll start off with the development update.
Sure. So we are moving forward with the extension of golf course, or the extension of Challenger and the removal of Golf Course Boulevard that interferes with the RPZ. We've worked with every group in the county and the city to make sure we're not interfering or changing any response times with the sheriff, with the fire department, and they have all indicated that there's no major impacts. So we're moving forward with the design and fee to get that project underway, and we're continuing looking for funding sources from the state for economic development monies. That's been a project that's been in the works for a while. If we go on to planning studies, the terminal planning study is complete. It is up on our website, or should be shortly. We just got it yesterday. We're also working on some flight tracks, kind of updating our flight track data that we have on the website. We're getting some information from the FAA as well as from our flight tracking software so that we can put that together. Kind of a shaded area of the normal flight tracks with a gradient that'll show where the majority of them are and as they move out. So people that are new to the area or have questions, should that plane have been there, they can go on the website and look at that. The north side drawings, we are working with AECom. We met yesterday. We are modifying a few of the drawings that they gave us, and we'll have a final that we can use to present to potential tenants. It kind of builds out that entire north side, does hold a little in abatement for a larger facility to go up there, but we have a lot of interest in the north side. I'd like to make sure that we have something to give to people and also have a schedule of how we're going to take that land down. The rental car, well, the terminal planning study is done. We're out for a new rental car agreement right now. So we'll see how that goes. That'll be back to us in January.
I was there last night in the rental car. My daughter was renting one. That is huge.
It is
that
huge, and
area.
it's
Holy smokes.
small.
That's considered small?
Oh, it is
Really?
tight. Terminal seating, as I discussed, did not happen this week, but will be happening soon. We'll be doing it at nights, probably 2 or 3 gates at a time. The M&O building, maintenance and operations, is still underway. We had 30% plan reviews. We're trying to get the cost down. It came in about $2 million over budget, so we're working on that. And the industrial facility, I've got the 15% plans on that, and we're working with a few real estate people to see how we're going to market that. Self-serve facility, we are in the process of permitting and moving the existing one and purchasing a new one to be located closer to the 200 series hangars. 607, the 9 box hangars are will be under construction as soon as we get permits from the county. That is both the T hanger and the box hangers. Inline baggage system, we just had the what percent review? 70% review with the designer. We'll be sending all that to the TSA for further review, and then we'll be looking for funding from the FAA, from the TSA, and some from the infrastructure bill to proceed with that development. And the new FBO hangar, we're still working with the contractor for some pricing, and we kicked off the taxiway G pre-design meeting yesterday or Monday. The days are running together after being closed for 7 days. And working so much. Taxiway Delta reconstruction project, we are waiting on a grant from the FAA. The Building 101 ramp repair is completed. The roadway network improvements, as you saw when you drove in, we are working on those. We did complete the areas in front of the terminal with adding a new crosswalk out of bag claim to kind of centralize that and keep people from walking randomly across the street and jumping the fence, which happens. The runway 422 is well underway. It's almost complete. We are hoping they were had a schedule. They're doing some final profile testing to make sure everything meets the spec, and then any mitigation that's required. And once that's done, they'll start the milling and then painting, and hopefully we can get that back on open and in use before January. The 10 box hangers, again, we're working out permitting issues, but they should start that, as well as the 606 T hangers. The general aviation, everything's done. The General Aviation Center is open. We're still finalizing some contractor issues. So. Next slide. Is there anything else?
Question on north side plan and drawing is not a question but a statement, and one of the reasons we're doing that is basically we're making certain sites available for private people to build.
These are almost all private developments. I just want to make sure we have a plan that we can present that has
utilization of the
yeah,
correct space.
I don't want to
building.
put something in the middle that messes up the future. So if you want to build a 40,000 square foot hangar, here's where it goes. If you want to build a 10, a 20, here's where it
Yeah,
goes.
the important part is that that real estate is going to be available for corporate or private individuals to build their own hangars,
Yes.
and that's important.
Mr. Chair, a quick question for Mr. Parrish. Jim, with respect to the north side, how are we making out with the industrial property? I know we've talked about it several times.
On
The 80 acres, I guess it's
well,
east of us?
there have been a lot of proposals on that. I'm kind of waiting till the proposals all die, and then we'll make a
Okay.
proposal ourselves.
I got you. All right, thank you.
Marketing update, Ms. Miller?
Hey, good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. In your board packet, we have our marketing report, which, really highlighted the Air Center opening. Thank you all for attending and being involved with that. We launched a new website for that, had great coverage in the Sun and the newspapers. Thank you, Daniel Sutphin, for the article, and Steve Lineberry took a lot of photos, and so we're happy to see that's up and running. And also at the terminal, we opened up a new mother's room, which is really cool. It was a closet that we converted to an area where mothers could nurse, feed, lactate, pump, etc., change their baby. So we got really good positive recognition for that. That's near Gate 2, so if you're in the waiting area, let any mothers know about that. Help us spread the word. But really what I'd like to touch on today is excited to announce that we're going to be embarking on an annual campaign to benefit the United Way of Charlotte County. And over the last few years, our airport authority employees have been volunteering. We had several opportunities where we did food distributions. Our employees got out there. We did supply drives. Y'all helped with that as well, commissioners. Thank you. We did toy drives as well as packed kindergarten readiness bags last year. And so we're really trying to step that up and be more involved. Last year, United Way Executive Director Angie Matheson came and spoke to you about what the United Way does, and she's back today to give you an update after I'm done here. And so our management would like to take it to the next level, so we've come up with an Aviation Gives Back theme. And the idea is to incorporate the employees, the airport authority employees, but also the larger airport community. Our tenants and our partners here at the airport could be consultants, engineers, some of them are here, and really try to get everybody involved with what the United Way does and partner together as aviation businesses and employees to help raise money for the United Way. So we're going to have some fun with this as well. So September 27th, we're going to do a campaign kickoff, have an ice cream truck come. The United Way staff's going to come and present to our employees and let them know what the United Way does, how they can help, and how they can get help. So it's not just about us giving money, time, volunteering. It's about, spreading the word how the United Way can help our own employees that may be in need or have family members in need as well. So we'll be reaching out to our fellow employers and tenants and corporate partners on site to see if they'd like to get involved. We'll be having fun chance auctions. We'll have some cool auction item packages that people can donate and get chances to win. Everybody likes a everybody likes a raffle, so to speak. Then the United Way has Days of Caring. We'll be able to do projects, employees on the ground here, help out with the partner agencies, could be a food distribution or something like that. We'll be doing more supply drives also in December, possibly a toy drive again, do the kindergartners readiness bags again in February. And throughout this time, the United Way fiscal year ends in March. So our idea is to get all this wrapped up by the end of March and hopefully raise $20,000. And I know it sounds like a lot, but if we get together all our corporate partners and aviation partners and employees and everybody involved in the aviation community, I think that's definitely doable. And then hopefully in April, everybody that's contributed, participated, we can have a pizza party at the new Rosati's at the Air Center. Yes, and make the big announcement of how much money we raised. So we're going to try to engage the community, engage our employees and staff and aviation partners, and get everybody excited about something here at the airport and helping our community. So with that, I'd like to introduce Angie Matheson. She's the Executive Director of the United Way, and she's going to give us a little update and basically tell us what they're doing in the community and how we're working together. Thank you, Angie.
Thank you, Kaylee, and thank you, Commissioners, for having me here today. It's always an honor. My name is Angie Matheson, the Executive Director of United Way of Charlotte County. Our mission, mobilizing the power of our community to break the cycle of poverty. A community where all citizens achieve their potential through education, financial stability, and healthy lives. Just like airlines often route their flights through hubs as means of bringing people together to concentrate air travel, we serve as a hub for the community. We bring people together for hope. Some come to us because they want to get hope, and some because they want to give hope. And that mobilizing piece is so key. So I appreciate being able to share with you today a little hope. But can we all think of a time when we felt hopeless? I want you to just think about that, but we're going to talk about hope too. But our community is surrounded by folks who are feeling hopeless. And we as a community can rise up and support those who are in that place of lack of hope, if you will. There are calls we get to our office every day. Folks working 3 jobs, health crises, multiple families living together trying to figure out how to make ends meet. Now more than ever, our nonprofits, United Way, volunteers, the whole community, we're working to solve the problem of how do we mobilize to help the folks that are in need, especially after the pandemic. There's food, obviously the inflation. Folks are trying to figure out, make hard choices with how they pay their bills, what do they pay for, and what do they go without. We do serve, I forgot, thank you, if you can move to the next slide. You've been doing great, thank you. We do serve ALICE. ALICE stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained Employed. These are folks who are working and barely able to make it. And you can see here the numbers. This is a measure that the United Ways across the country use to understand poverty. We have our basic folks who are in poverty. You've got 10% of Charlotte County households as of the last report. We do not have the most recent ones since the pandemic, but we can anticipate these numbers are worse. And so the folks who are in that 30% really are the ones who are working, who are on tight incomes, and they're literally on the verge of going homeless. And so we work to address that generationally, but also with acute crisis, basic needs, helping to help folks get those items met so that they can have less stress, so that they can do the things that they need to do to have a healthy family. And you can see here, these are some staggering numbers. Are you surprised that 23% of the households 65 and over are in this category? These are folks that even though they're not working, they are actually going back to work. Fixed incomes for the seniors is really creating a crisis. You're seeing more seniors that are at risk of homelessness and being homeless. Over half of our children in Charlotte County fit in this category. And generationally, we have to solve the problem, and again, also address the acute needs. And so how does United Way serve that? Hopefully this diagram, it's a hard thing to explain. What does United Way do? A lot of people are like, I just have no idea. Well, this diagram is an attempt to explain how we mobilize. Yes, we have donations, local government dollars, grants. We administer those funds and we mobilize. And these are a couple of different ways that we do that. We do that with 2 in-house programs, which I'll talk about in a moment. We have our programs that we fund for nonprofits. We hold nonprofits accountable for outcomes and impact, certainly assisting the commissioners, the county commissioners and city council with those human service dollars. But the key is that you can look at one nonprofit, but there's not, all communities don't have an agency that's looking at it across the spectrum from the lifespan, from birth all the way through the lifespan. And that's what United Way does uniquely. And we mobilize volunteers to address these issues as well. And so, next slide, thank you. Last fiscal year, our fiscal year ends in March, our investment into the community was $1.6 million. Again, funding 23 programs, 18 partner agencies, and over 14,000 lives impacted. It's many times people think of United Way as a transactional organization, money in, money out, and I'm here to say that it's transformational, because what we want to do is we want to change lives, generations, so that the folks who are babies now are going to want to stay in Charlotte County, and they're going to be successful, and they're going to be thriving, and you have to look at that over the long term. But then we also have to make sure folks have the resources to stay in their home. It's not a singular lens, as I mentioned. We're looking at it from the whole perspective of the family and the whole perspective of the community. So a little bit about 2 programs that we do administer through the United Way of Charlotte County Season of Sharing. We help folks with their rent, mortgage, and utilities through a grant that we receive. You can see here last fiscal year, 452 households. I will tell you, 2 weeks ago, we administered $43,000 in 1 week. These are folks who are coming to the case managers in the community who literally are on the edge. $43,000 in 1 week and $26,000 last week. So this is a true need here. Through our volunteer income tax assistance program, we have the ability to use volunteers, again, mobilizing the community. And these are often seniors who have retired who want to give back to the community. So they volunteer, they show the love to clients who want to get their taxes prepared. And you think, well, taxes are just no fun. We don't really care about taxes, right? But the economic impact of our volunteer program in the community, $1.2 million last year, and that was a 15% increase from the year before. Now that's 676 families, okay? Average income, $26,000, average annual income. They're widows who have never had to deal with their finances before, and we have a volunteer shepherd this person in and say, we will take care and help you. We do multiple years of taxes at one time. 2 stories. One family, single mom, 6 children. She came in, a volunteer, administered prepared her taxes. $22,000 she got back. Another family, a teacher here in Charlotte County Schools, her husband was looking to get his medical license. They've been praying for exactly $6,400 to get their license. They got their taxes prepared and received $6,500 back, so that he was able to go and get his medical license. These are real stories of real families, and so we're real proud of the program. We use volunteers in the community who want to give back, and then we help clients in the community. I do want to close with one more story, if I may. Have you ever been to a laundromat? Last time, yes, just think about the last time you were at a laundromat. Recently, in Charlotte County, we had volunteers and community partners through the Patterson Foundation give, I think it was 392 loads of laundry to folks who came in one morning. We were there for 3 hours, and talk about hope. We had so many smiles on the faces of these people, and I want to just tell you a couple of the stories. A grandmother who was there got to meet with Jesus Loves You Ministries and apply for Habitat for Humanity housing. A child learning from the library, drawing, and how to get involved with the library and how to read. School board member reading to a child who's a struggling reader. And the grandmother who adopted her is worried about her, so we were able to make connections with the school for the family. This child who's being read to by the school board member sees her teacher, who she loves to read to her, and who also came into the laundromat, and this child is just overfilled with joy. Another mother of 5 who has high schoolers in athletics, her washing machine broke, and she comes to the laundromat 5 times a week to do the athletic clothes laundry. And you can imagine how much that costs. And for a family who's struggling, that's incredible. And then Sarah. We met Sarah, and she was very behind on her rent. We were able to help with Season of Sharing, get her 2 months of rent. She has an aspiration to work at one of the local hospitals, so we're making connections with her to get a job at the local hospital. Connected her with our Kids Thrive program, and there's a navigator there who is also helping her with parenting questions that she had. She's going to come to our Fashionista Friday in a couple of weeks and get some new clothes. And very much you can see just in the laundromat the representation of Charlotte County and all the different people who are just a smile away from needing a little bit of hope. But the United Way of Charlotte County, what we can do when you give and when the community gives, we can navigate and we can mobilize those dollars to give hope to our community. And we also want to make sure that our community knows how they can get help. And so that is a role that we have in the community. Do you have any questions for me today? Have I given you some hope?
Yes. I think I could use a lot. But anyway, I have a question for you. What's your goal this year?
What's our goal?
Yeah, your financial goal.
Our overall goal is $800,000. I think it's $840,000. Now, that is for the United Way to raise. Okay, we also administer funds through the county, through Season of Sharing, and those dollars we have no control over. But so that's the 800 is a portion of what our internal goal is. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Any other questions?
It's astonishing to find out so many people here in Charlotte County need,
Yeah, that's
have
amazing.
all this need. I had no idea. I know there's some, but wow, the numbers are enormous.
It is enormous.
I think we appreciate your
Yeah,
overview, and
excellent, yeah.
Kaylee will, I'm sure, represent our part.
What's going on so you can continue to be involved.
Right.
I appreciate
Okay.
the caring way that Ms. Miller, she really cares about the mission and the people of our community, so I appreciate you very much.
Did you put Lizzie in the picture for me?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, James's Leadership Charlotte class raised money for Lizzie the literacy bus. And so it's like full circle.
Oh, and the bus was at the laundromat, too.
Is that the bus in the picture?
That's the bus.
That's
Yes.
the bus, yeah.
Yes, Lizzie is the traveler of hope, if you will. These kids were running on the bus at the laundromat, and they were just so excited to get books. It was wonderful.
Again, thank you. Okay, moving on, our aviation report. Mr. Duncan?
Thank you. Good morning. Yes, aviation report for the month of August. You'll see that the month of August, as compared to last year, we were up approximately about 1,000 flights, and the majority of those flights continue to be local traffic as well as general aviation. Next slide. Our passenger count, you'll see, is up as well. I can't find my pages.
That trend will stop in September with
Yes.
a week of shutdown.
Yeah, it was shut down.
Thank you. But you'll see that, yeah, the trend continues. We're having a really good year. As Mr. Parrish indicated, it'll slow down here. Naturally, August will be a little bit less than July, and then September with our closure will be off again as compared to a previous year, but overall, employments have been up over previous years, so we're extremely happy with that. Next slide. Yes, and then in fuel sales, you'll see that in the month of August, avgas out of truck was down a little bit compared to a previous year. Next slide. And self-serve was up. We look at that just because of the cost of fuel. Self-serve is the best deal you could get on the airport. If you're in need of avgas, it's only 60 cents above our cost. So a lot of pilots take advantage of that savings. Jet out of truck was just about flat as compared to last year. And the last slide on airlines pumped gas was up about 80,000 gallons over previous August of 2021.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
That was really good news. We almost broke Facebook yesterday with fueling photos of the Black Hawk helicopter.
You might explain what the DOD contract is and how you have to go after them.
So Darren Weber, general manager that oversees the FBO operation, shortly after we hired him, Darren reached out to his contacts in the industry and was able to put together the deal with Department of Defense. All those aircraft that fly across the country for DOD, they only stop at airports where they could pick up fuel, where they have an agreement in place. So it was a very extensive audit that they send in their officials to come in and inspect not only our fuel trucks, but our fuel farm. And we passed with flying colors, and we thought we were good to go. And then they sent another group in to validate what the first group did. And sure enough, we passed again with flying colors. So it started a couple days ago where we had a Black Hawk helicopter come in. We were expecting a couple citations yesterday, but due to weather, they weren't able to get in. But I understand they're coming in today. So the agreement is where we get paid an uplift charge for fueling those aircraft. So not every airport has a contract with DOD, and we're successful. We're glad to have one. So it was congratulations to Darren and all the hard work he has done in order to get that contract in place.
Are you going to maintain separate statistics on the upload or the?
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion. Yes, we will.
Yeah, we've had DOD contracts in the past, and one of the problems is you have to use it. So part of Darren's job is to market it.
Yeah,
you have to make sure they know, the groups all know that we have it so that they stop here. The C-130 that flies around here constantly using our ILS is a good thing. He never lands because we couldn't fuel him. Now he'll land, hopefully go to Rosati's, get some fuel, and then take off again.
Okay.
That's a lot of fuel in that one there.
Yes, it would be nice to fuel him 2 or 3 times a month.
Every time I see them doing touch and goes, I just wonder how much it's costing each time they come down. The amount, because their engines are just full on when they're going out. That is just sucking some gas right there.
Okay, under old business, do we have any other items for old business?
Old and new business are complete, so we can move
So there's no,
straight to.
nothing, all right. We'll move on to public comments. Anyone wishing to address the board during this portion of the meeting should state their name and for the record, and we'll give you 2 minutes. I believe we have someone to address.
My name is Tom Esch. I am the more recent manager for the Rohanger 2 LLC. As you probably know, Rohanger 2 LLC owns the actual building 207, and we have a current ground lease that is good for approximately another 24 years. Let me start out by saying this, is that my goal here is, we're very supportive of the airport as a whole and everything that they're trying to accomplish. We're not here to stand in the way of progress. But at the same time, we would like to take and explore every option and solution that may be available to us to obtain the most optimal outcome from all parties concerned. And with that said, we had learned as early back in 2017-18 that there could be some realignment in the airport and some expansion and some things with rental car parking, things of that nature that may affect our hangar. But through that process, or our hangar building, through that process, we were always informed, and we could see it actually published, like in the master plan, that our building was going to be replaced, in fact, if you even look at the master plan diagrams that's still posted in the badging office and up on the website, it shows building 19 on the north side of the airport, and it very specifically says, if you look at the legend, it says building 207 replacement. If I'm replacing something, we own the building, we have the ground lease. If they're replacing our building, we expect them that they're replacing it. And what we were informed during those periods of time, and again, some of this was through Mr. Morris, which was a previous manager, which is now deceased, is that this process was going to be, we'd be replacing it with a like structure. That's all we ever asked for. You know, we have the building, we have insulated walls, high bay lighting, 200 amp electrical services, we have bathrooms in each one of them, most epoxy floor, just replace our building with a like structure in the like building. And it was all supported because all the master plans that we could see showed Building 19 as being the replacement for 207. However, more recently, and so we expected we would just move from one building to another building, continue on with our lease in a new location on the airport, not standing in the way of progress. Unfortunately, well, I don't say unfortunately, it was just through the process. We had a conversation with Mr. Carr, thank you, and in that conversation, he had informed us of things that we were quite surprised. And one of those was that the intention of the board, or at least what he understood and is conveying to us, the intention is to somehow terminate our lease constructively or otherwise, the ground lease, and then take our building and demolish it. So to take our building, you know, that it says here that we're going to replace your building, and they're going to take the building and demolish it. But however, we could become a tenant and lease individually in the other building. Now, that building, which was Building 19, we thought was a 6-unit building, same as ours, and that's what we would obtain. But now it was going to become more of a tenant-based solution. And so, hey, there could be a solution there, but what I wanted to get in front of the board here and have a discussion to say, is that truly the intention, or is this the only option, or are there potentially an option where we can still just simply have you build a new building, a replacement building, and we move into that building, versus going through what he explained was basically a termination of our lease through some means within the contract, which obviously we don't want to be adversarial, you know, or get into an adversarial role in an amicable solution. So that said, with the lease arrangement, things are quite different, you know, from our perspective. We own the building. We just want our building, and 24 years from now, it reverts back to the airport, just like it does in the present lease. So what I'm trying to understand is that still an option that we can do that? What happened to Building 19? We understand now, I see I was able to find on the website a progress report, and it looks like it now shows something with just a black line. It doesn't appear on any of the master plan maps, but it shows in the project report that there's an area, it looks like it's a 10-row hangar, and it says that looks like it's going to, where the tenants from 207, which were not really tenants of the building, were tenants of a ground lease, that we would be put into this 10-unit building because we have 6 units. And then there were 4 more additional units that's there. It's like we got moved. So what happened to Building 19? How did we end up over there? is there another place that we could be put on the airport, absent of that with a new building? And so I come to the board and asking, is this something that us being basically taking of our building, somehow terminating the lease? Mr. Carr is an attorney. He's here for those, to understand every legality and options that are available to them to try to terminate it. But let's look at what is kind of right and what's wrong, and then what can we do to not harm each other in any way and get the most favorable outcome. So that's what I'm here to look at. There is what are some of the options? And candidly, to take our building, terminate it, take our building, and put us as a tenant per se in another building. I know that there's some things that could be written into the lease and things, still an option, but we want to understand, is this the intention of the board? And does the board, are they receptive to entertaining or looking at options where we can retain our building in another location? And beyond that, just so I can make sure that it's in the record, we'll answer that. I just wanted to make sure that if I need to, could I ask or request potentially in a future agenda item that we would be able to be on the agenda for such discussion. Mr. Carr and us will continue conversations, of course, but I'd just like to know if any of those options are available.
I'll just, we normally don't go back and forth in this section of it.
I understand.
But just in general, as this develops, I can't speak for the entire board, but from what I know about the board, I think that our position would generally be that we're going to protect your investment. And that's just a general statement I'm making. And where it's going administratively, we don't have any of those details at this point.
So, and understand the uniqueness of our arrangement that's here. I mean, we have a great hangar and a great location on a great airport, and this is not reproducible. It's not like we can go somewhere else. I was down to Naples Airport, said, well, what happens if something happens here? And I wanted to buy an 80 by 80 hangar. They had one for sale. It was $3 million for one hangar. We have a special thing that's here. This airport's a special place. It's not reproducible. The arrangement that we have with our lease, ground lease, and the building that we have, we just want to be able to keep that intact and continue on. The stuff with terminating the lease, damages, all that stuff gets into a lot of back and forth and valuations and stuff. It would just be so much simpler if we could just simply reproduce our building in another location or be able to own our space in another building.
Jim, when was that building built? What year?
I'd have to look back.
207, it was built in 2006-7.
2006, 2007.
Right.
So if technology changes and you can kind of end up with a better building, just maybe different components, would that?
Well, certainly, but there's a difference between leasing and owning something, right?
Yeah, I
mean,
understand.
it's kind of like I own this car or I own the lease. Even the value of it, we talked about different scenarios and how to, intrinsic value and transferring that interest. But the thing with it is, if I wanted to sell somebody a car, it's a lot easier to sell them a car than it is to sell them, a lease in the building as well. But as you said, it's interesting because, you do say, and it could be that the building, but there's just certain things that are amenities, like the insulation inside is very nice to have. It's the bathrooms in each one of the units that are individual. The electrical panels, 200 amp services, things of that nature, to be able to do that. And this building, I guess it's already, I was surprised, it looked like it was already put out for bid and awarded, and something of that nature, if that's the one that we're supposed to be put into or moved to. But we don't even know what the construction was or anything like that at this point, or if it can still be adjusted.
Well, like I said, that's a lot of details that the board is not aware of, and it's in the staff's hands at this point. But just speaking in general, I would think that the policy of the board would be to protect your investment and that you are maintained whole. Like I say, that's my opinion, and we don't want to get into a discussion and a negotiation of the minutiae of the contract at this point, but I appreciate you making us aware of your concern and your willingness to cooperate and make something happen.
Sure, and I think that together we can come up with a positive and most optimal outcome for everybody concerned here.
You want to pay for his time? No.
Well, that's why I came here, so you didn't have to fill away his video.
All right, well, thank you. Where's that?
Yeah.
Okay.
How long have you been here with your business on the airport?
Well, we own the hangars privately. It's the LLC owns them. There's 6 units that are in there, and we have 5 members. I actually own a third of the membership interest, and it kind of correlates to each one of the individual hangars. But the hangars were put up, and I think the lease started in 2005, something like that, 6. But the buildings, I think, actually got,
And some have changed hands over the years.
Yeah, and so I've been here personally probably since around 2009 on the airport for quite a while. I have businesses here in town, and it's a nice community and things. So, but anyways, thank you for your time and entertaining that, and we'll continue to work together, get an outcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we're available for commissioners' comments. Mr. Andrews. Oh, we have another. I guess I should have said that. Anyone else?
Hi, Stephen Schwank, and also a owner in Rohanger 2. And I don't want to go into much detail because Mr. Esch did a good job. But I used to rent a hangar here, and I was just thrilled to be able to buy into a hangar. And I love this airport. I love this facility. Everybody on this airport is great. Whenever we have a problem, an emergency, the fire department's there, the airport, everybody takes care of us. We're all family here. We just love it at this airport, and I just don't want anything to change. I understand there's progress, and okay, you may have to move us, but I would just like to try and keep the same agreement we have. You know, we've been here long before Allegiant and the rental car people. You know, like I said, I understand progress. When you're putting up the fuel purchases, all the airplanes in our hangars, we've got corporate airplanes, we've got warbirds, we've got helicopters, you know, experimental aircraft. We buy a lot of fuel. We use all the services, Sarasota Aviation, APG. They do all my maintenance. We just love the facility, and we just don't want to be damaged financially. If I would have to say sell my lease, you can look at us, Tom and I, go, we're probably not going to last a full lease. So if we go to sell that, it's a lot easier to sell a hard asset hangar than it is a portion of a lease. And of course, you know, if I want to paint the floor purple, I can paint it purple. But anyway, just like your consideration on it, everybody. And thank you very much. You guys do a great job of running this airport. We're very happy here, and we just like to stay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wish to address the board on anything? Seeing none, commissioners' comments. Mr. Andrews.
Well, I'd like to thank everyone for coming, and I'd like to mention Sandy. This is her last meeting here, and you've done a great job. Appreciate everything you've done, and we're going to miss you. And as I told you earlier, I only have one specification when you leave. Enjoy retirement. Have a good time. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Hurston.
Yes, sir. I always like to start out by thanking our staff. You guys are just amazing. Every time I stop by to check on you guys or to take care of a little bit of business, it's just amazing. But anyways, it's good to see David from Charlotte County. I see we have, as you know, Commissioner Deutsch is in the back. It's good to see, as always. And Sandy, thanks for all your service. It was really appreciated. Enjoyed it. With that being said, that's all I have.
Commissioner Coppola.
Well, I'm going to say the same thing. It's been a pleasure. You're so professional, you're so smart, and you always come with an answer when I have a question. So I'm going to miss you. And I'm sure the person that replaces you has been specially picked also. So I wish you all the best in the future. I will come back to see us once in a while. Yeah. And enjoy your retirement. You love to travel, so you'll be doing a lot of traveling. Other than that, this has been a very interesting session. Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Carr, for all your hard work on these different situations. They must keep you occupied quite a bit. And just thank everybody for being here. Thank you.
And I'd like to echo the board's comments on Sandy leaving us, and maybe I can now figure out her creative accounting. And wish her
That's her
best.
secret.
We will have an
That's why
opportunity
she's
to
good.
have a more informal goodbye for you. I would like to mention to the board members, if they haven't seen it, I believe it's October the 7th, the Charlotte County Fire Department will be, October 4th, the Charlotte County Fire Department will be displaying and opening up the new fire training facility, that big black airplane fuselage you see along I-75, so you can go and see it. And I thought maybe we ought to put all the commissioners in a hot suit and go in one of those. It's quite an experience.
That'd be fun.
But it's an interesting deal if you haven't seen one, and I think it's a great addition to our community because they're going to make it available for training other crash fire rescue, I should say our aircraft fire rescue and fighting people from around the state as a school. So it's another addition to school. So with that,
They could paint fire training on the side of that. I get so many questions of why is that thing there? It's just, people, you're the attorney. Why is that old airplane out there? It's not really in.
well, it was about $1.5 million, if I
Training
recall. Yeah, it's
When it's on fire, you won't see.
When it's on
yeah,
fire. Is it gas fed? Is that the
propane. Yeah,
Huh?
yeah. You want to go inside?
No, yeah, I would.
I mean, there's hot fire inside that thing.
I would do that.
Interesting.
Is that a new weight
Okay,
reduction?
with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for coming.